गुड मॉर्निंग सर, गुड मॉर्निंग सर। ये स्टार्ट नहीं हुआ अभी तक ना? आई थिंक यूट्यूब पे देख पा रहे होंगे, इधर नहीं देख पा रहे होंगे क्लास में। Hello, 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 hello. Hello. Can you guys hear me? Hello? Hello, hello, hello. All right. Guys, it'll take some time, like 2 to 3 minutes. We'll start in 2 to 3. इसको थोड़ा सा ना कमेंट्स वाले पार्ट को ना ऊपर कर दो उनको यूट्यूब वाले में, मतलब वो वीडियो ऊपर जा सकती है, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं। हाँ, बस आप नीचे कर दो कमेंट्स वाले पार्ट को ना, हाँ नीचे स्क्रॉल कर दो, हाँ इसको नीचे ले आओ बस। ओके, परफेक्ट। हेलो हेलो हेलो, गुड मॉर्निंग एवरीवन। Good morning, everyone. Can you guys hear me? Please respond with a yes or a no if you can hear me now. Give me a thumbs up if you guys can hear me. मैं अभी जस्ट 12th पास आउट होंगी, मैंने इकोनॉमिक्स नहीं लिया था 12th में, प्लीज कहाँ से पढ़े ये बोल दीजिए एज अ बिगिनर। अनुपम, okay, good morning guys, perfect. Anupam, you can watch the previous video, the first video, I think, first or the second one also, we have discussed this. कहाँ से पढ़ना है? You can start with your NCRTs, not a problem. NCRT macro से आप start कर लीजिए. Alright guys, we'll start with today's lecture. So yesterday it was just an introductory session. It was only about what it means as like economics as a discipline. What does that mean? What do we mean by macro, microeconomics? That's what we were discussing yesterday. Now today we'll have to pick up what is called from the poll that I conducted. The topic that we have to select for today is Introductory Microeconomics. Now as part of microeconomics, the only one thing that we have to prepare, which will be covered in the today's class, in tomorrow's class, and maybe day after, maybe 2 to 3 odd classes. This is going to be mostly about demand and supply. This is the only thing that we have to cover in microeconomics. That means we have to build this model called the DS model, where we'll be studying about demand, we'll be studying about supply, and then we'll be interacting demand with supply in a market scenario. It'll take us 2 or at best 3 odd classes to come up with this part. For microeconomics, you don't have to refer to any other source except for your class notes. You don't have to worry too much there. All right. Is there a problem? It is still showing joining, going out of the class and coming back again. As of now, only economy. Guys, can you please tell me if the class is starting or not? You guys can hear me out? You guys can listen to me as we speak? Showing kindly wait, your lecture will start soon. Okay, for how many people can watch me? Okay, so most of you guys, you can also go to the YouTube channel of PW OnlyIAS English. That's where it could also be live. So if you guys want to watch it there, why is it showing joining again and again? It has started. So some of you who may be facing problems, you can go to PW OnlyIAS English YouTube channel, and there you can find the same class happening live as well. Right, so if you guys want to watch it there, you can watch it there too. I'm guessing there will be some problem here with the portal. We will get it uploaded on the portal also. So if you guys want to, you can also go to the YouTube section. All right, there should be a fair number of people. It's showing class not started. Guys, for those of you who can't watch the class on your portal, you can please log into YouTube. The channel is called PW OnlyIAS English. here this class is also happening live. This is your YouTube channel. So this class would be streaming live there as well. Jesus Christ, there's some problem here, yeah? Guys, give me a minute. Give me a minute. Let me just get in touch with the people here. जैसे अगर ये YouTube पे लाइव स्ट्रीम हो रही है तो उसका रिकॉर्डिंग इनके यहाँ अपलोड हो जाएगा क्या? YouTube का? हाँ, मतलब जो भी क्लास रिकॉर्ड हो रही है, जैसे इनके पोर्टल में लाइव तो स्ट्रीम होना चाहिए ना?
हाँ सर, वो चैनल पे आती है ना?
हाँ, आनी तो चाहिए, मैं कह रहा हूँ, बट जो लोग पोर्टल पे देख रहे हैं वो तो पोर्टल पे देख पाए ना, बिकॉज दे हैव पेड फॉर इट यार. I logged out and then it worked. Try that. Guys, can somebody tell me if it is working for everyone or not? Is it working on the app for everyone or not? Is the lecture working on everyone for the on the app for everyone? Please guys, you can tell me so we can get this addressed. YouTube पे तो it will be streaming live for sure. Need to reload once. Like you guys need to reload once. Working. But some log के लिए, and I reloaded the page and it working. Somebody says it's not working. Yes sir. So most of you all who see, eventually it is going to work on your app as well. If you find a certain bit of a problem working with your app, you can log on to YouTube also. On YouTube, the same class will be streamed live. You will have this class uploaded to your portal as well. Don't worry about that part. So if you want to watch it live, there is YouTube. You can join YouTube as well. Therein you can also see the same thing. Absolutely the same thing. All right, I'm going to begin the class now because it's been too late already. Not working. Guys, those of you who can't find the same class on your app, please log on to YouTube. This is the channel. The same class is going to be streamed live there. I will not repeat the same thing again. Go to this YouTube channel, find the same class happening live. All right. Now let's begin the class itself. Like I said, in Introductory Microeconomics, the only thing we have to cover is demand and supply. Today we'll be focusing on the demand aspect of things, and tomorrow we'll pick up on supply. What we want to do in the class is we want to construct what is called a demand curve. The objective of today's class will be to answer two questions. The first question is, how does demand respond to change in prices? The second question we'll have to address after the end of the class that you should all be able to answer is, when demand changes because price changes, by how much does demand change when prices change? These are the two quintessential questions that we have to address after the end of this class, which is, first we need to understand the relationship between demand and prices. The second question that we need to address is, if demand changes as the price changes, then how much does the demand change if the price changes? The answer to both of these questions will come from what is called the demand curve, from what is called the law of demand. Now, remember, we have to start addressing this aspect of microeconomics, which is about demand. We first need to understand what demand basically means. What is the meaning of the word demand? And we will understand this with an example. Now, back in the day when I started preparing, I used to live out of Gurgaon. Now, because I had to move to Delhi, of course, because this is where all the preparation happens, or so we were told, and we had to look for apartments. The first place that we wanted to go to look for an apartment so we could stay in Delhi and also prepare for civil services, this happened to be this place in Delhi which is called Jorbagh. And many of you who are familiar with Delhi and who are familiar possibly with also property prices in Delhi would know that Jorbagh is one of the most expensive localities in Delhi. Now, funnily enough, we got down at the Jorbagh metro station and we thought this is one place where we could rent an apartment. When we were walking through Jorbagh, the only thing we could see were huge bungalows, like houses which are palatial in nature, looked very much like palaces. In Delhi, it's a rarity to find a garden in front of a house, and in Jorbagh, you found many bungalows which had gardens in front of them. Now, of course, I looked at this house in Jorbagh. If I'm not mistaken, it used to be called, I think it was called 8 Jorbagh, which is a big house. And instantly, I told myself that one day when I grow bigger, one day when I become a little more wealthy, I would want to buy this specific house, right? This house in Jorbagh. Now, the fact that I looked at this house and I instantly wanted to buy this house, does that mean that I constitute the demand for this house or not? Now, whether I constitute the demand for this house is going to be dependent on two things. First thing is, am I willing to pay the price for this house or not? And if I did some bit of this research around property prices in Jorbagh, now the same property would be probably around 117 crores. This is the amount of money that I would have to spend to buy this house in Jorbagh, 117 crores. The first aspect of whether I constitute the demand for this house or not is going to be my willingness to pay the price. The second aspect, which will be absolutely necessary for me to constitute the demand for this house, is not just the willingness to pay the price, but also the ability to pay the price. That means, in the absence of either of these two, in the absence of either willingness or in the absence of ability to pay the price, I do not constitute the demand for this house. I would only have counted towards the demand for this house 8 Jorbagh if, firstly, when I looked at the price, I was willing to pay that price. Secondly, I was able to pay that price. What that means is I had the amount of money to buy this house in Jorbagh. So demand has to be understood differently from what we call desire. In the absence of either of these two factors, or in the absence of both of these two factors, you do not constitute the demand for a certain commodity. For you to constitute demand for a commodity, you have to have two conditions. The first condition is willingness to pay the price. The second condition is ability to pay the price. That means if you are able to pay the price, that means it is affordable to you, you have the amount of money to pay for this house, but you do not want to pay this price, in which case you do not constitute the demand. Conversely, You may look at the price and you may be like, yeah, in Johor Bagh, if I have to buy this house, I will be neighbors with Shah Rukh Khan and I will be neighbors with P. Chidambaram. Quite obviously, this house will be expensive. I am willing to pay 117 crores for this house, but I don't have the money for it. In which case, once again, you do not comprise the demand for this house. The only way you will comprise the demand for this house is if both of these conditions are fulfilled, which means that you are both willing as well as able to pay the price. भैया ये अभी भी बोल रहे हैं class is not live on PW app.
मेरे में तो चल रही है सर।
चल रही है? Guys, you need to refresh your app. Maybe that's when the class will happen, right? On your app per se. All right, एक बार इसको refresh कर दीजिए. That means whenever you are reading about something called demand, demand will only and only exist if there are two conditions. First condition is willingness to pay the price. The second condition is ability to pay the price. It is working on the PW app, guys. Now you can watch it on the PW app or you can watch it on YouTube, whichever is your preferred medium. Right, the class is happening and it is also being broadcast there itself. Yeah, you can refresh it, not a problem. Thank you. All right. So how do we define demand? We say that demand of a commodity, and you can write it alongside, demand of a commodity is defined as the quantity of that commodity given its prices that a consumer is willing and able to pay for. This is how you define demand of a commodity. That means what constitutes the demand of a commodity? Demand of a commodity is the quantity demanded of that commodity or the quantity of that commodity at its corresponding price that a consumer is both willing to pay as well as able to pay for. That is what constitutes demand, which means in the absence of either willingness or ability, or in the absence of both, it does not constitute demand. It becomes what is called desire. So demand and desire has to be very, very carefully understood. You will only comprise the demand of a commodity if you satisfy these two conditions. If I ask of you, how many of you people would like to buy an Audi A6 or an Audi A8 or an Audi R8? Many of you would look at the price of an Audi R8, probably could be like around 2 CR, 2 crores. You would look at that price and you will feel that this is a great car. Clearly 2 crores I will be willing to pay for this particular car, but I don't have the money to pay 2 CR for a car. In which case, do you comprise the demand of an Audi R8? Will we factor you in as part of the demand of that particular car? No. You will only be desiring for having an Audi R8. You will comprise the demand only if when you look at the price, you are willing to pay the price and you have the money to pay that particular price. That is what is called demand of a commodity. It is the quantity of a commodity given its prices or corresponding to its prices that a consumer is willing to pay and a consumer is able to pay for. That is what is called demand. Now we have to address 2 questions about demand after today's lecture. The first question was, how does demand respond to change in prices? What will happen to the demand of a commodity if the prices of that commodity change? Second, the second thing we have to understand would be, if demand changes when the price of a commodity changes, then how much does demand change if the price of that commodity changes? There are 2 specific things that we will have to address. The first thing we'll have to address is, what is the relationship between demand and prices? This is the first question that we'll have to address. What is the relationship between prices as well as the demand of a particular commodity? Now, firstly, I'm going to give you some time. Please tell me, did you understand the difference between demand as well as desire? Give me a yes or a no. If you understood the demand, what does it mean? Do you understand the difference between demand and desire? Can you tell me if you guys understood the same thing? Because once you have understood that, then only we can proceed with this part, which is what is the relationship between demand and prices? Did you understand? Everybody on YouTube also? Did you understand what demand means? I'm guessing most of you did. Yes, yes, perfect. All right, so the next thing is, what is the relationship between demand of a commodity as well as its prices? The answer to this question lies in what we call the law of demand. But we are not going to be talking about the law of demand just like any other teacher will tell you. We are going to be constructing this law of demand. Now remember, when we spoke of economics as a discipline, remember we said that economics is a social science which puts some logic behind our choices. We are consumers, we are facing constraints in terms of our incomes, in terms of our budgets. Now, working within these constraints, how much of a commodity do we buy and how much of a commodity do we not buy? Right? We discussed this, that economics is a social science. Economics concerns itself with human behavior, and because human beings have consciousnesses, they do not respond to the same incentives as any other non-living or other animals might. Because we have a consciousness, if we give some people the same incentives, we cannot be expecting the same response from them. Like I said, there will be a difference between an illiterate person, a financially uneducated person, if I give him 1 crores versus when I give 1 crores to a person who is also very financially literate. The same two people will use the same 1 crore rupees very, very differently. That means in economics, since we are wanting to understand the human behavior and human beings will not respond to incentives the same way, now how do we solve that problem? Economists solve that problem by not looking at ordinary human beings like you and me. They have observed us, and when they observe us, they see that there is some patterns to our behavior, but when they try to decipher this behavior, they are not addressing us, they are not addressing me, they are not addressing you, because their subject matter is human beings, and human beings are going to be responding differently to different incentives. So the way they work around that problem is by imagining a person who is going to be called a rational human being. Economists find a way around this problem. They are going to be explaining you the same problem. They are going to be explaining you human behavior, not by looking at your or my behavior. They will have in their mind a conception of a human being who is going to be called a rational human being. A rational human being is an imagination of an economist. A rational human being is one where this person is going to be making choices, and all of these choices will be logical choices, will be rational choices. That means in many of our conceptions, when I give you the amount of money, sometimes we buy things that we absolutely don't need. Sometimes we buy very few of those things that we need. Sometimes we buy more of the things that we need than we actually need them. Many of our choices are not rational. They are not driven by a sense of logic. They are not driven by a sense of reason. many times we act very impulsively. We look at something, we find it attractive, and we just end up buying it. Many of our behaviors is not rational. Therefore, economists are not going to be looking at your or my behavior. Economists in their imagination will be thinking of a human being who is a rational human being. And in fact, in your readings as you go along, you will find this word homo rationalis. A homo rationalis is different from homo sapiens, which we are. Homo rationalis is a term for a rational human being, an imaginary human being who, before making choices, be it consumption choices, be it production choices, be it choices with respect to allocation, will be making those choices on the basis of solid reasoning, on the basis of solid logic, on the basis of a solid rationale. This is how an economist is going to decipher this particular relationship. A rational human being is who? Now, what makes a rational human being rational? There are 4 particular principles that any rational human being is going to apply. 4 principles of rational human beings. Rational human beings are ones who make choices which are driven by a sense of logic or a sense of rationale or a sense of reasoning. That means their choices will be called rational choices. And there are 4 principles for any choice to be a rational choice. The first principle is that any rational human being is going to be following what is called a cost benefit analysis. Before making any choice, this rational human being could also be a producer. This rational human being could be the government. This rational human being could be a consumer. So for a producer, the choice is production. For a consumer, the choice is consumption. For the government, the choice could be allocation of resources. We assume that these beings will be rational. Therefore, if they are making a consumption choice, if they are making a production choice, these choices will be driven by a sense of reason, and the first rationale is a cost benefit analysis. That means before making a choice, a rational human being is going to be comparing the benefits of that choice with the cost of that choice, and only if the benefits exceed the costs of that choice, only then will the particular person make that choice. That is the first rule. The second rule is that whenever this particular person is making a cost benefit analysis, he will of course consider all types of costs. A rational human being will consider all types of costs whenever he makes a particular choice. It could be a production choice, it could be a consumption choice. Whenever he is comparing the benefits of that choice with the cost of that choice, he is going to be comparing all types of costs. The third principle that any person, any rational choice maker is going to be following is that he will ignore what is called the sunk cost. And the fourth principle is whenever he is comparing the costs of an action with the benefits of an action, he is not going to be comparing total costs or total benefits. He is going to be comparing what we call incremental costs versus incremental benefits. Now, once again to rewind, firstly, economics is a social science. That means the subject matter of economics is human beings, and human beings are not known to be rational. Right? Many human beings are not rational. That means when they make choices, these choices may be rational, they may be irrational. In fact, you remember in many of your choices that you have made in your life, you know that most of those choices were not driven by a sense of reason. Sometimes many of those choices were irrational. Therefore, economists find a way around this problem by not observing your behavior or trying to explain your behavior. What they have in their mind is a rational human being, an imaginary human being. The word which we use here is homo rationalis. A rational human being is one who could be a producer, he could be a consumer, he could be a part of the government. A rational human being would be one who will think many times, who will use a sense of logic, who will use reasons before he makes a certain choice. There are 4 principles that determine when choices become rational choices. The first principle is that a rational human being is going to compare the benefits of a choice with the cost of a choice. The second is the rational human being is going to be considering all types of costs whenever he is doing this cost benefit analysis. The third principle is that a rational human being is going to be ignoring what is called sunk cost. And the fourth principle is that when the rational human being is comparing the benefits of a choice with its costs, this human being is not going to be comparing total benefits with the total costs. He is going to be comparing what we call incremental benefits with incremental costs. I am going to be elaborating on each of these. All of these let us elaborate on one by one. You may think of this as the principles behind rational choices. 4 principles: cost benefit analysis. Second, inclusion of all types of costs. Third is ignoring sunk costs. And the fourth principle is that cost benefit analysis will happen on an incremental basis, not on a total basis. Now let us examine each of these principles one by one. The first principle says that a rational human being is going to be comparing the costs of an action with the benefits of an action. That means if the benefits of an action, if they exceed the costs of an action, this in economics is what we call a surplus. This is called an economic surplus. When the benefits exceed the costs, we land ourselves in what we call an economic surplus. All those choices which put you in an economic surplus are choices that you will be making. If the benefits are less than the costs, in the first case we can say that if the benefits are more than the cost, then there is an economic surplus. If the benefits are less than the costs, then you land yourself in a scenario which is called a deficit. And if a choice lands you in an economic deficit, you will not make that choice. This is the first principle. The second principle says that whenever you are comparing benefits with the costs, you will be taking care of all types of costs. And this is important. Right? What do we mean by all types of costs? So costs can firstly, these costs can firstly be divided into 2 types of costs. One is called an explicit cost, also called a direct cost. The second cost is called an implicit cost or an indirect cost. Now, what do we mean by explicit costs or direct costs? What do we mean by implicit costs or indirect costs? First is explicit cost or a direct cost. What does this mean? This cost is a monetary cost. That means it is a cost which is incurred and a cost which is paid from the pocket. All those costs which are incurred as well as paid from the pocket will become direct costs or explicit costs. That means you are spending some money from your pocket itself. Implicit costs and indirect costs are the exact opposite of a direct cost or an explicit cost. These are costs which are incurred but not paid. Costs which are incurred but not paid are called indirect or implicit costs. These are therefore also called non-monetary costs because no money was involved here. Nobody had to pay something out of their pocket, right? Whenever we are going to be comparing benefits of an action with the costs of an action, we will include all types of costs. First is explicit cost and implicit cost both, or you may want to call it direct cost and indirect cost both. Now, one thing is absolutely clear here. This is the theory aspect. Now, what is the practical application of the same aspect? Like, how do you understand this principle? Let us focus on understanding this principle with an example. Let me give you an example and explain to you what the first two principles basically mean. Now, consider that we are living in Karol Bagh, and since Karol Bagh is a hub of coaching institutions, there are many people who put their houses on rent, right? Karol Bagh is a coaching hub. In Karol Bagh, can you guys do me a favor and can you guys only and only focus on the board? I have not explained to you what sunk cost means, not even for once, right? Please focus on the board. If all of your energy is driven towards writing and typing stuff on your portals, then that means you're not focusing on what is being taught. What do you think? I will leave the class and not explain to you what it means, whatever I've written on the board? I'm not going to do that, right? So you have to focus on whatever is being discussed on the board. After each discussion, I will give you the time to ask me your doubts. I think as a graduate or even as a person who is graduating, this is the most basic thing that can be thought of as an instruction. Very simple instruction. Everything that I'm writing on the board, I'm going to be explaining it. I'm going to be giving you a choice, an option to write your doubts to me. I will explain those doubts also. So you don't worry about that part. If you concentrate on typing as I'm teaching, that means you're not looking at what is happening on the board, right? So please become a little bit mature and try to focus on the board. We are taking this example to explain the first two principles. The first two are cost benefit analysis and inclusion of all types of costs. Let's take an example of Karol Bagh. In Karol Bagh, because it's a hub of coaching institutions, many people who live here have their houses and they put up these houses on rent. They let it out to many aspirants who come to Delhi and want to prepare from Delhi itself. Imagine that you are one of those people. You own this house in Karol Bagh. This is your house. And at this point in time, you have put it up on rent. The monthly rent that you are getting from this house is, imagine this is, let's say 50,000 per month. There is a house that you own in Karol Bagh. This house you have let out to many people who are aspirants. These aspirants are giving you a monthly rental income of 50,000 rupees, right? Now, since you have a house in Karol Bagh and you know for a fact that there are thousands of people who come here every year to prepare for civil services, that means you have a good opportunity to convert this house into a cafe. In the cafe, right, you may be selling coffee, you may be selling cookies to go with it, brownies or whatever you may want to call it. There is a good opportunity that I can convert this house into a cafe. And if I convert this house into a cafe, my monthly revenue is going to be rupees 80,000. This is going to be my monthly revenue. That means I have a house. This house at this point in time has been put up on rent. I get a monthly rental income of 50,000 rupees per month. The same house, I can convert it into a cafe, and this cafe is going to give me a monthly revenue of 80,000 rupees. Now, should I continue with this house on rent? Let me call it option A. Or should I convert this house into a cafe? Let me call it option B. Which decision should I make? Should I leave it be? Should I be like, you know what, the house is giving me a monthly rental income of 50,000 rupees per month. The other option is I convert this house, I get a monthly revenue of 80,000 rupees per month. Now, how do I decide? Should I continue with option A or should I choose option B? Apply the first principle here. The first principle is, for each of these options, I will have to compare the benefits of each of these options with the costs of each of these options. Let me consider option A. What is the benefit of option A? The benefit of option A, let me call it option A, which is the house is a rental property. What is my benefit if I continue this house as a rental property? My benefit is that I am getting a monthly rent of 50,000 rupees. This is my rental income. What is the cost involved here? If I keep my house as a rental house, it's not like every month I have to spend some money for the house to be rental. Once I have let it out to you, the only cost I will have to involve is, if at all there is some repair or maintenance. Otherwise, I don't have to spend a dime on this house. It is up to you now whether you want to convert this house into a bachelor pad or if you want to use this house a little more beautifully. But that is not going to involve my cost because I don't live here. I have let it out to you. We can imagine that there is no repair and maintenance that happens here. It's a new property, right? So there's not going to be a lot of costs involved. But whenever I'm comparing the benefits with the costs, the first cost is what we call explicit cost. Explicit cost is the cost that has to be incurred and paid for from my pocket. If the house continues as a rental property, I don't have to spend any money on the beautification of this house, on the repair and maintenance of this house. I don't have to do anything. Everything will be taken care of by my tenants. So that means every month I'm not spending any rupee from my pocket. That means my explicit cost is rupees 0, nothing. The second cost I will have to consider is what I call an implicit cost. What is an implicit cost? The definition says an implicit cost is a cost which is incurred but not paid for. Now, how can there be a cost which is incurred but it is not paid for? This brings us to a very important discussion. This discussion on what we call opportunity cost. Implicit cost is the opportunity cost of that action. Now, what do we mean by an opportunity cost? Remember, we said that all people, be it consumers, be it producers, be it the government, every person has to make choices. Now, if there are options presented to you, if you go for one choice, that means you will have to forego all other choices. Opportunity cost is the cost not of the option selected. Opportunity cost is the cost of the option that you did not select because you were going for some other option. Let us understand opportunity cost in a detailed manner. Now, if I tell you that there is a Audi and there is a BMW. If you know the logos, BMW somewhere like this. You guys have an Audi to pick from or a BMW to pick from, right? How many of you will go for an Audi and how many of you will go for a BMW? Tell me, all of those people who will go for an Audi, give me a hand. Like all those people who will want to get an Audi, respond with an A. All of those people who will go for a BMW over an Audi, respond with a B. How many of you will go for an Audi? How many of you will go for a BMW? Those who will go for an Audi, press A. Those who will go for a BMW, press B. BM, Audi. A, perfect. Great. A, B, Audi. YouTube, there's only one person who wants an Audi or a BMW. There are people who want something else. Alright? Very simple question to answer. Right? Given a choice between an Audi and a BMW, which one will you go for? That was the question. Many of you are responding with an Audi or a BMW. Stop your response right here. Stop it. Now tell me, if I ask you, how many choices did you have? In this example, how many choices did you have? In the same example, how many choices did you have? Give me a count. When I asked you whether you want to pick an Audi or a BMW, how many choices did you have? Give me a number. Adarsh is saying 2, Shiksha is saying 2, Khushi is saying 2, Deepika is saying 2. All of you are right. There are 2 choices. Right? You can either go for an Audi or you can go for a BMW. Right? Now, what I do is, I take the BMW out. Right? I take the BMW out. Now tell me, how many choices do you have? If I take the BMW out, how many choices do you now have? Samanpreet is saying 1. Pranavika is saying 1. Pratibha is saying 1. How many choices do you now have? 1, 1, 1, 1. You are all wrong. You have 0 choices. There is no choice anymore. A choice only and only happens if there are alternatives to pick from. In the previous case, you could choose between an Audi or a BMW. That means if you picked an Audi, you could not take a BMW. If you picked a BMW, you could not take an Audi. If I take one of these cars away and I now ask you how many choices do you have have no choice. All of you will have to go for an Audi. Simple as it gets. There is 0 choice involved here. Choices will only and only happen if there are alternatives. And if there is no alternative, that means you are not presented with a choice. Now, every time you have a situation where you have to make a choice, you will pick one option, and by picking one option, that means you are letting go of the other option. This will not happen. Opportunity cost is not about what you picked. Opportunity cost is what you had to forego, what you did not pick because you picked something else. Opportunity cost is defined as the cost of the next best alternative that you had to forego because you picked something else. This is the difference between an explicit cost and an implicit cost. Explicit cost will be the cost of the option that you chose. It is a cost which is incurred and also paid for. Implicit cost of any action is its opportunity cost. Implicit cost is the cost of the option that you did not choose, the option that you had to forego because you chose something else. Opportunity cost, and remember one thing, opportunity cost is the cost of the next best alternative. If I did not choose an Audi, what did I choose? I chose a BMW. That means the opportunity cost of a BMW would be choosing an Audi. I had to let go of an Audi because I chose BMW. Conversely, if I chose Audi, that means I let go a BMW. The opportunity cost of choosing an Audi, of making this choice, is the cost of the alternative that I had to forego. Now, explicit cost is about those costs that you will be incurring and also paying because this is something that you chose. Implicit cost is the opportunity cost of an action, which is simply defined as the cost of the next best alternative which was foregone because you decided to choose something else. Now, in this case, mind you, opportunity cost is also a principle for your life. It is a principle that you should always be very, very aware of if you are preparing for civil services. Many of you are graduates, many of you are postgraduates, many of you probably would be working somewhere, many of you would have quit your jobs because you wanted to prepare for civil services. Now, those of you who had to quit because they wanted to prepare for UPSC, you made this choice. You said, I cannot prepare alongside having a job. Therefore, if I was given a choice between these two things, between continuing with the job or preparing for civil services, I pick preparing for civil services. This is the choice that I made. For making this choice, there will be some explicit cost and there will be some implicit cost. Explicit cost will be the cost that would be incurred and also paid for from your pocket. That means, for example, if you're preparing for civil services, maybe you enroll in a coaching. So the money that you spend on the coaching will be the explicit cost of preparing for UPSC. Explicit cost will also be the cost of all the books that you're going to buy, all the pens that you're going to buy, all the notebooks that you're going to buy because you want to make your notes. Explicit cost will also be the cost of the monthly rent you would be paying if you are staying in one of these rental properties. These are costs which are incurred and also paid for from their pocket. That means these are monetary costs. There is some money exchanging hands here. Because you decided to pick for UPSC, there is also going to be an implicit cost. An implicit cost of choosing UPSC will be the cost of the next best alternative that you had to forego. The next best alternative that you had to forego was continuing with your job. If your job was giving you a monthly income of 1 lakh rupees per month, that means the cost of choosing UPSC over continuing with your job will also involve this 1 lakh rupees that you are not going to be making anymore, that you had to forego because you decided to go for UPSC as an option. This means that for any action, not only will you include the explicit cost of that action, you will also include the implicit cost of that action. That means the opportunity cost of that action, the cost of the next best alternative that you had to forego because you wanted to prepare or because you wanted to pick another option. Continuing with the same example here, did all of you understand what opportunity cost means, what implicit cost means? Remember, opportunity cost is the cost of the next best alternative. That means most of you, let's say, who are graduates or who are still graduating, you are investing time in preparing for civil services. You have made the choice of investing that time in the preparation of civil services. That means with the same time, you could be doing something else. You could be marrowing gaiety on the roads. You could be basically like chilling, doing nothing, being absolutely useless. Or you could be some person who could be graduating or who could be thinking about their post-graduation. You could be some person who could be looking for a job or maybe eventually getting a job and also working. What will be the opportunity cost for you to prepare for UPSC is very simple. The opportunity cost will be the cost of the next best alternative. As a graduate, is your next best alternative for preparing for UPSC, is it roaming out on the roads doing nothing and being absolutely useless? Or is it to continue with your studies, to go for your post-graduation or to look for a job? Which one is your next best alternative? The next best alternative for you, you will have to decide on your own. A rational human being will of course say that it is not going to be the cost of any other alternative. It's the cost of the next best alternative. Some person is asking, confused between opportunity cost and implicit cost. They are the same. Opportunity cost and implicit cost are exactly the same thing. These are costs which are incurred but not paid for. That means in this example, if you decided to make a choice, the choice was you continue with your job, this is option A, or prepare for UPSC. If you decide to go for UPSC, that means you have let go of your job, you have quit from your job. You chose option B over option A, that means you had to let go of option A to continue with option B. In which case, the explicit cost of choosing option B will be the money that you will actually pay for preparing for UPSC. That means probably enrolling for a coaching, finding a house to rent, spending money on test series, spending money on notebooks, spending money on pens, everything wherein you are paying the money because you want to prepare. Implicit cost of choosing option B is the opportunity cost of choosing option B. That means it is the cost not of choosing option B, it is the cost of what you had to forego. The cost of you foregoing the job. That means you chose option B, that meant that you had to let go of option A. Option A is where you were making a monthly income of 1 lakh rupees. That means if you decide to prepare for UPSC, you are letting go of this 1 lakh rupees you could have made if you had continued with option A. Nobody is going to be asking you for 1 lakh rupees per month. You're not spending 1 lakh rupees per month, but this is the money you could have made if you had gone with option B, not with option A. Opportunity cost, implicit cost, indirect cost is exactly the same thing. In the first example, there was a choice that you had to make. Either you go for option A, which is continue with your house on rent, or you choose option B, that means convert this house into a cafe. If you choose option A, that means the same house cannot be a rental property as well as a cafe at the same time. If you choose option A, that means you will have to let go of option B. Conversely, if you choose to make this house or turn this house into a cafe, the house cannot be a rental property anymore. If you choose option A, you let go of option B. If you choose option B, you let go of option A. When we are doing a cost-benefit analysis for option A, we looked at the benefit of that choice. The benefit is the monthly rental income that I'm going to get. Whenever we are factoring in the costs, we will have to take an account of both. They will have to take an account of the explicit cost, or what is called the monetary cost, or also called the direct cost. We will also have to include the implicit cost of this action, also called the non-monetary cost, also called the indirect cost. Implicit cost is the opportunity cost of option A. That means if I go with the house as a rental property, I am foregoing this house being converted into a cafe, and I am foregoing the monthly revenues that I am making there. Fair? Now, remember in this particular example, the revenue that you are going to be making by converting this house into a cafe is 80,000 rupees. There is a difference between revenue and profits. For you to convert this house into a cafe, that means you will have to also buy some inputs. You cannot make coffee out of thin air. You will require coffee powder, you will require a brewing machine, you will require milk, you will require sugar, as the case may be. There will be many raw materials required for you to make coffee. In addition, you will also have to use some workers. You may also hire some workers to make this coffee for you. That means the house to be converted into a cafe will also require you to spend some money on the raw material. You may even have to spend some money on hiring some workers who are going to be working at your cafe. we will call this operating expenses. And let's assume that the operating expenses are 25,000 rupees per month. It includes the wages that you're going to be paying your workers. It will also include the cost of raw material, which is the milk, the sugar, the coffee powder, the beans, the machine and everything. Right? That is about 25,000 rupees per month. Now, revenue is what you get by selling your particular item at a certain price. Revenue has to be adjusted for with the cost to arrive at a certain profit. If your revenue is 80,000 rupees, that means you sold coffee for 80,000 rupees per month. But for you to sell that coffee, you also had to bear some costs. You had to pay your workers. You had to get some raw materials also, which amounted to rupees 25,000 rupees per month. That means the profit that you're going to be deriving from this particular action is going to be 80,000 minus 25,000. This is going to be rupees 55,000 per month. Consider option A. Option A is continuing with the house as a rental property. Option B is converting this house into a cafe where you could be making a monthly profit of 55,000 rupees. When you are deciding for option A, you will compare the benefits of option A with the costs of option A. Now, the benefits of option A are the rental incomes. This is the rent that you're going to be getting if you allow this house to continue as a rental property. And the cost would be both explicit and implicit. The explicit cost will be the cost that you'll have to bear from your pocket. Now, because it's a rental property, you know for a fact that not many landowners are going to be spending money on the house that they have let out. So, we can imagine that this cost will be zero. The implicit cost of the same action will be the cost of the opportunity that you had to forego if you wanted this house to be a rental property. That means if it is a rental property, this house cannot be a cafe. And if it cannot be a cafe, that means every month you are foregoing a profit of 55,000 rupees per month. That means the implicit cost here is rupees 55,000 per month. This is not money that you are paying from your pocket. This is money that you are foregoing. Because you wanted the house to convert to remain a rental property, you could not convert the house into a cafe simultaneously. That means if you want it to be a rental property, you are foregoing the monthly profits you could have gotten if the house was a cafe. Now we will compare the benefits of the cost of this choice. Benefits of option A minus the costs of option A. The benefit of option A is very simply put the monthly rent that you're going to get, which is rupees 50,000. Benefit is rupees 50,000 minus costs. Costs will include both explicit cost as well as the implicit cost of the action. It is going to be rupees 50,000 minus explicit cost of the action is 0 because for this house to remain a rental property, you don't have to spend any money from your pocket every month. So this explicit cost is 0. Implicit cost is the opportunity cost of this house being a rental property. That means if you decided to go for option A, the house could not be converted into a cafe. And if it could not be converted into a cafe, you are foregoing the monthly profit which you could have made if the house was converted into a cafe. This is going to be rupees 55,000. Now 50,000 minus 55,000 is landing you in a deficit scenario of 5,000 rupees. This is your deficit. That means when you compare the benefits of option A with the costs of option A, you are landing yourself in a deficit scenario. Now let us look at option B. Should I convert this house into a cafe? If I convert the house into a cafe, what will be my benefit? What is the benefit of option B? Minus the cost of option B. Option B in this case would be converting the same house from a rental property into a cafe. Now, if I convert this house into a cafe, my benefit is the monthly revenue that I am going to be making from this particular cafe. The revenue I make from the cafe is 80,000 rupees per month. I sell coffee worth rupees 80,000 per month. But this benefit will have to be compared with the cost of this action. if I decide to convert this house into a cafe, there will be some explicit cost. That means money that I will have to spend for the house to be converted into a cafe, plus the implicit cost of me choosing this house to become a cafe over it remaining a rental property. Now 80,000 is my benefit. Explicit cost would be cost which is incurred and also paid for. Now for me to sell coffee, I will have to make coffee. I will require milk, I will require sugar, I will require coffee beans, I will require a brewing machine, or I will require workers also. I have to pay them some money for them to make coffee which I will be able to sell. That is my explicit cost because it's a monetary cost. I will have to pay some money from my pocket. And my explicit cost we discussed in this case, imagine that our explicit cost is 25,000 rupees per month, which is my operating expense. What is the implicit cost of converting this house into a cafe? The implicit cost is the opportunity cost. That means if I decided to go for option B, I had to let go of option A. The house cannot be a cafe as well as a rental property at the same time. If it becomes a cafe, then I will have to throw my tenants out, right? I cannot continue with this as a rental property. That means for me choosing option B, I am foregoing option A. And what was the benefit of option A? The benefit of option A was the monthly rent that I was getting. So here the implicit cost is the monthly rent that I was making if this house would have been a rental property. Now 80,000 minus 75,000, I am landing in a surplus of 5,000 rupees. This is where I go for option B. A rational human being, if presented with these two choices, a rational human being who has a house which is a rental property right now, gives you a rental income of how much? 50,000 rupees per month. The other option is to convert this house into a cafe, which could give you a profit of 55,000 rupees per month. Which option will a rational consumer choose? A rational person, a rational agent is going to go for option B. Why is he going to go for option B? Because in option B, the benefits of the option B far exceed the costs of option B compared to option A. This is what he is going to be choosing. Get this now? Any problems? Now you can ask me. If you have any doubts in this example, the first two principles, if they are clear to you, ask me the same. Any problems? The first principle was that every rational agent will compare the benefits of an action with the costs of that action, and if the benefits exceed the cost, you will make that choice. If the benefits are less than the cost, you will not make the choice, right? The second principle was whenever we are including costs, whenever we are considering costs, we will consider both types of costs, the explicit cost as well as the implicit cost. Explicit cost is also called the direct cost. Explicit cost is also called the monetary cost. It is a cost which is incurred as well as paid. Incurred का मतलब क्या? ये cost आपको लगी है. Like this is something that you would have to pay, right? Because you choose a certain option. Implicit cost is also called the indirect cost. Implicit cost is also called the opportunity cost, also called the non-monetary cost. Implicit cost involves not the cost of choosing an option. Implicit cost or the opportunity cost involves the cost of letting go of an option because you chose something else. Opportunity cost is the cost of what you had to let go because you had to choose something else. And a rational agent, whenever he is considering costs with benefits, he is going to be considering both types of costs, explicit as well as implicit. In this example, we said that there are two options for a particular person who owns a house in Karol Bagh. One option is that he can continue this house as a rental property and make a monthly rent of 50,000 rupees. Or he could convert this house into a cafe. This cafe is going to give him a monthly revenue of 80,000 rupees, but there will be some operating expenses. He will have to pay his workers. He will also have to pay for the raw material. That operating expense is 25,000 rupees per month. That means his profit that he's going to be getting from this cafe is going to be 55,000 rupees per month. A rational agent would be an agent who is going to be comparing the cost benefits for each of these choices, and wherever he finds more surplus, he is going to be opting for that particular choice. For option A, the benefit is the monthly rent. The costs will be both explicit and implicit. Explicit cost would be the cost that you have to spend from your pocket. Now, you have seen many landowners do not spend any money when they let out a particular property. So, the explicit cost involved here is zero. Right? What is the implicit cost? The implicit cost will be the opportunity cost. Because I chose this house to remain a rental property, that means I did not convert this house into a cafe. That means my implicit cost will be the cost of the option that I had to forego if I decided to continue with this house as a rental property. Because I did not convert the house into a cafe, that means I am foregoing a monthly profit of 55,000 rupees per month. Therefore, when I compare the costs of this action with the benefits of this action, the costs of the action will include both the explicit and implicit costs. Zero is the explicit cost because no money a landowner is going to spend on the beautification of this house once he has let it out. The implicit cost will be the opportunity cost of not choosing option B, which is monthly profits of 55,000 rupees. When you compare the benefits with the costs, you land yourself in a deficit. The other option was option B. If you converted this house into a cafe, this means the house will not remain a rental property anymore. For you to choose option B, you will have to let go of option A. Now, what is the benefit of option B? The benefit of option B is very simple. The benefit of option B is the monthly revenue that you're going to get because you'll be selling coffee. The revenue that you're going to get is 80,000 rupees per month. But for you to sell coffee, you will have to require some inputs, you will require some raw materials, you will also require some workers. You will have to pay them some money. Because when you pay this money, this is a money which you are going to be spending from your pockets, and hence it will be the explicit cost. The explicit cost in our example is 25,000 rupees per month, but we will also have to factor in what is called the implicit cost or the opportunity cost or the indirect cost. Opportunity cost is the cost of the alternative that you did not choose because you wanted to convert this house into a cafe. Because you wanted to convert this house into a cafe, this means the house could not remain a rental property anymore. That means you are foregoing the rent which you could have made, which was 50,000 rupees per month. So when you compare the benefits of this action with the cost of this action, benefits are the monthly revenue, 80,000 rupees, minus explicit cost being 25,000 and implicit cost being the cost of the option that you have to forego, which is 50,000 rupees monthly rent you are foregoing because you decide to call this house a cafe now. This lands yourself into a specific surplus, and between these two choices, a rational agent is going to be straight up picking option B. Is implicit cost and opportunity cost the same? Absolutely the same. It is exactly the same. All right. Are the first two principles clear? Let's go for the third principle. The third principle is that any rational agent is going to ignore what is called a sunk cost. Now, what do we mean by a sunk cost? Sunk cost means sunk cost is the cost that an agent has already paid for before a choice is made. What is sunk cost? Sunk cost is the cost which an agent has already paid for before the choice was even made. And as a rational agent, we have to ignore sunk cost. I will give you an example to explain this. Now, consider that you are a builder, right? You see a patch of land in Karol Bagh, right? There is a patch of land that you see in Karol Bagh. it tells you that, oh, because Karol Bagh is very close to central Delhi, there is a good chance I could use this patch of land and build a huge housing society over this patch of land and sell houses. Because I'm a builder, this is what I do. I look at patches of land. Every time I find some empty land in a decent locality, it gives me some amount of butterflies in my stomach, and I decide to convert this land or this parcel into a housing society of sorts. Now, this is what I want to do. I want to understand whether building a housing society in Karol Bagh, would this be a good thing to do or not? Now, for me to consider whether I should build a housing society, yes, or not build a housing society, right? I may have to incur some costs before I make this decision. One type of cost that I may have to incur here would be that I will conduct a market research. I will get one of these market research agencies, or I may get in touch with a consulting firm and ask them, is this a good idea if I could use this parcel of land, if I could buy it out, construct a housing society and sell houses, right? Will that be a profitable venture or will that not be a profitable venture? The market research agency is going to be looking at multiple factors. The market research agency is going to be first looking at whether this parcel of land is available for sale or not. Is it a government land or not? Is this land, will the government allow you to set up a housing society on this land or not? And if it does, will there be enough people who will be interested in buying the housing units here? And if they are interested in buying these housing units here, do they have the money to pay the prices that the builder may ask for? There are many factors behind this consideration, right? So you will have to pay this market research agency to tell you whether this is a good idea or not. You may also have to conduct what is called feasibility studies. You will have to bring in architects, you will have to bring in engineers, civil engineers, and ask of them whether this parcel of land is suitable for me to construct a 21-story apartment or not. Because it could be so that this particular parcel of land is technically a daldal, there is a lot of water underneath the soil, so even if I start digging, there will be no end to the water in here. It's not suitable for construction of a housing society, most definitely not a 21-storied society, right? So you will have to conduct these feasibility studies too. Now, this is the cost that this builder will have to pay for before he decides whether he should construct a housing society or not. This is money that he has to pay for already. Now, the answer to the question whether I should be constructing a housing society or not, the answer could be yes or a no, right? The market research agency may tell you that, you know what, the purchasing power of people around this specific area is not too high, so you do not expect a lot of sales. You may also get to hear from the market research agency that Delhi at this point in time is oversaturated, Delhi is too polluted, many people who have the money to pay for housing societies are looking at houses outside of Delhi, they will not be interested in Karol Bagh. Or many of those, the market research agencies could also say that Karol Bagh appears to be a very low standard area for you, right? For the target customers that you are looking for, those people will not be interested in buying a building society or buying any plot here or buying any specific house here, right? The answer could be no. Or the feasibility study people, they can tell you that there is no way you can construct a 21-story building here. So if you buy this parcel of land, it already means a lot of money, and if you construct anything less than 21-storied buildings, or you will say like each floor has like 5 units, that means if you do not sell 105 units, you will not be in profit. So there is no sense for you to make this particular building society. Now, what if the answer comes out to be no, right? This builder consults a market research agency, consults architects, consults engineers, and both of them or either of them tell him that you should not go ahead with this project. Will the builder deny them paying money? Will the builder not pay them money because they had no as an answer? Will the builder not have to pay the money? The builder will have to pay the money. Now, because there is no direct way of recovering this money, therefore a rational agent has to ignore what is called sunk cost. The answer could be a yes, the answer could be a no. The builder can decide to construct a housing society, may decide to not construct a housing society, but this is the cost that he had to pay before he made that choice. Since this is a cost he had to pay before making a choice, quite obviously this cost will have to be ignored. A rational agent will always ignore sunk cost. Sunk cost is the cost that you have to pay before making a choice. You ignore it. Why? Because there is no direct way of recovering this cost. If the answer is no and the builder decides to not go for it, to not construct a housing society, this is the money he has already paid. So there is no direct way of recovering this money because now he is not going to construct a society. This is money which is gone, so he has to ignore it. This is the third principle of rational choices, that a rational agent is always and always going to ignore what is called sunk cost. If he does not ignore sunk cost, he will be stuck in this fallacy which is called the sunk cost fallacy. Now first tell me, did you understand what sunk cost means? The definition is here. The cost that an agent has to pay or has already paid for before a choice is made. That cost is called sunk cost, and a rational agent is going to ignore sunk cost. He will have to ignore it. Now tell me, do you first tell me, do you understand what sunk cost means? Tell me, do you understand what sunk cost means? Perfect. Those of you who did not understand sunk cost can also tell me that I did not understand sunk cost. Consulting a lawyer too falls in this? Yes, of course. Understood? All right. Now, what is sunk cost fallacy? Let us try to understand sunk cost fallacy. This is something that you should remember because it's a principle for life. What is sunk cost fallacy? Many irrational people will never ignore sunk costs. Many irrational people will not consider sunk costs as costs that have to be now ignored. They will continue piling on these costs. I will give you an example. In the month of January, the air quality index for Delhi is around 999, and 999 is the highest on the scale. That means air is really polluted in the city of Delhi in the month of January. You would have seen many news articles come and they tell you that going out in this Delhi air is something like smoking 28 cigarettes per day. It will have the same disastrous health consequences for you as if you were smoking 28 cigarettes per day. Any smoker is going to be looking at this figure and he'll be like, you know what? If I step out, it already means that I've smoked 28 cigarettes per day. It doesn't hurt for me to smoke one more. What is the 29th cigarette going to do that the 28 cigarettes already will not have done for? This is called sunk cost fallacy. Sunk cost fallacy is where you do not ignore this. The fact that you already have smoked 28 or it is something similar to you having smoked 28, you should as a rational person think that, you know what, I should not add more cigarettes to this because it's going to be even worse. An irrational person is going to ask of himself, oh, I've already smoked 28 cigarettes a day, or it is basically breathing in this air is something like smoking 28 cigarettes a day. What bad will one more cigarette do? This is what is called sunk cost fallacy. If you have seen, how many of you know this game called poker? How many of you have played this game called poker? Has anyone played poker? In poker, there is a term which is used. This term is called tilt. Tilt is where even on good hands, you are losing money. Many people, when they start losing money, even on good hands, they start to therefore continue with the game in order to recover their money. Because there is a bad day today, your luck is not working in your favor, you will continue to play even bad hands, good hands, and you will continue to lose the money. Ideally speaking, if you figured that, you know what, today you had great hands, and yet in those great hands, you lost money, you should have realized that you are on a tilt. And the rule in poker is the day you are on tilt, that means it's a particularly bad day for you, just quit the game, come back some other day when your luck is a little bit fresh. But those people who are irrational, when they lose some money, that means they are on tilt, that means they are losing money even on good hands, they will therefore decide to play to recover the money first. That means they will add more and more money to their bankroll, continue to play, and end up making much more losses than they would have if they had just quit the game in the beginning itself and moved on. This is also an example of a sunk cost. But the most relatable example for you would be your preparation itself. UPSC's preparation sometimes is also an example of what is called sunk cost fallacy. How does sunk cost come into being here in UPSC preparation? Very simple. Now, ideally speaking, you will have to invest 12 to 15 months of your time for your first attempt. Right? Somewhere between 12 to 15 months is good enough for your first attempt. Now, this exam is a 3-stage exam. Imagine that you invested this amount of time, wrote your first attempt, could not clear it. Now, once you have invested 12 to 15 months in your first attempt and you could not clear it, what you will start to think is not that, you know what, I should just give up. You will ask of yourself, or you will try to convince yourself that I have already spent 15 months. What bad is it going to do if I spend one more year? Because I want to recover the value of these 12 to 15 months. I don't want this to go to waste, and the next attempt I can only take after one more year. I have already invested 12 to 15 months. I should invest 12 more and write my second attempt. Fair enough, you write your second attempt. Once again, you do not clear it. Or maybe you cleared the prelim stage, did not clear the main stage. The outcome is the same, you will have to write the same attempt again. Now you have already invested somewhere between 24 to 29 months. The third question for you would be, should I take the third attempt or not? Then you will convince yourself, telling yourself that I have already invested 29 months or 24 months, as the case may be. What bad is it going to do if I invest 12 more months? Because I've spent too much time preparing for this. I've invested a lot emotionally. I've invested a lot in terms of my energy, in terms of my time, also in terms of my money. And I've not recovered what I wanted to do. And I've already invested 24 to 29 months. It's not going to hurt me if I invest 12 months more. So you invest 12 more months. You will come down to your third attempt. And in your third attempt, you cleared the prelims, you cleared the mains, could not clear the interview stage, and you are back to square one. The outcome is that you did not clear the exam. You will only clear it if you write the next attempt as well. Now, by the third attempt, you will then start to think that, you know what, I have already invested 36 months of my life, or 36 to 41 months of my life, right? जहां पर 36 महीने चले गए, वहां 48 हो जाएं तो क्या फर्क पड़ता है? How bad can it get if I invest not 36 but 48 months? And you will write the fourth attempt, you will write the fifth, you will write the sixth, sometimes all of them unsuccessfully. and the Kal Chakra of time is going to push you out of this particular competition, right? A rational individual or a rational aspirant would be thinking about what? A rational individual or a rational aspirant is going to tell himself or herself that, you know what, I will have the most amount of energy and the excitement for my first attempt. It may take me 12 to 15 months, plus there is almost always an additional example of luck involved in here. I may not be as lucky, but in the second attempt, by this time, I would have completely understood what the requirements of this particular exam are. I may be better prepared for the second attempt. This person may take the second attempt or at best may take 3. But after the third attempt, this particular person is also going to consider his or her opportunity cost. It means that if I have invested so much time here, I have also lost the same amount of time for doing something else. I could have been working, I could have been continuing with my masters, I could have taken up any other career opportunity except for considering just this part. So by the third attempt, any rational individual is not going to be thinking of recovering the time invested. A rational individual will also start to think of a plan B and invest some of the time there also. This is called sunk cost fallacy, where you keep on piling up more and more cost in the hope of recovering the money or the time or the energy that you invested in the first place. Any rational individual will always ignore sunk cost. There is no direct way of recovering the time that you have already invested. A rational agent is going to tell himself or herself, you know what, this is the time I've already invested. I have, taken 2 attempts, 3 attempts unsuccessfully. Now I should ignore this as time lost and focus on any other career alternative also. Get this? This is a very, very relatable example of what is called sunk cost fallacy. And all those individuals who fall prey to this sunk cost fallacy are irrational individuals. Any rational individual is always going to ignore sunk cost because there is no direct way of recovering it. Therefore, a rational agent will always ignore it. This is your third principle. The fourth principle of rational choices is that whenever the costs and benefits are being compared, we are not going to be comparing total costs with total benefits. We are going to be comparing what is called marginal costs or incremental costs with incremental benefits. That principle I will explain to you in some time to come. Now tell me, are the 3 principles clear to you? Do you now know what it means in terms of cost benefit analysis? What do you mean by explicit costs, implicit costs? Implicit costs are the same as opportunity cost, right? There are different names for it: implicit, indirect, non-monetary, also what is called opportunity cost. For explicit costs, the names are explicit, direct, or monetary costs. Everything clear? Is it clear? I know you may not, I'm pretty sure you did not like this example, but I want to be helpful to you guys. I want you all to be very rational. I want you all to be invested in your dream, but also think rationally, think practically. Understood? Any problems? All right. Fair enough. If you have understood these principles, now we will apply these principles to what is called the theory of consumer behavior. And from the theory of consumer behavior, we are going to be deriving what is called demand. Ignoring means to move on and not be fixated. Yes. I'm still stuck on the doubt as to how we'll make a choice when cost and benefits are equal. Devarshi, you will understand it in some time to come. In some time to come, you will understand it. Don't worry. Just hang on, you will understand that part too. Okay. Now let us imagine how a rational consumer behaves in a market scenario. From here, we will have to answer, we will have to come up with what is called the demand curve, law of demand, and other important things. Remember, the choice that a consumer is making is going to be called consumption. The role assigned to a consumer is consumption. Let us first define what consumption means. We discussed this yesterday, that consumers have needs and wants. Producers build goods and services which are going to satisfy these needs and wants. Not me. Nature. Just a moment, guys. Yeah. I'm so sorry for the interruption. There was some person not coming. Okay. We knew that consumers have needs and wants, and many of these needs and wants will not be satisfied by what is called natural resources directly. Producers are going to be transforming these natural resources into items which will satisfy these needs and wants. This realization of needs and wants is what is called consumption. What it means is that, for example, my need is to cover my body. Since my need is to cover my body, I will require a shirt and a pant. This shirt and a pant I will not find in nature directly. This shirt and pant will be made by a producer who is going to transform natural resources such as cotton into these shirts and pants. There will be a producer who first grows cotton, converts it into yarn, from yarn to fabric, and from fabric to apparel, or these shirts and pants. This is the process of production, transformation of natural resources into goods and services that hold some use value for me. Consumption is the realization of that use value. Now, can I say that apparel, or can I say shirts and pants have a need satisfying potential? Can I say this? My need is to cover my body. Can I say a shirt and a pant have a need satisfying potential? That if I get a shirt and a pant that is fit to my size, I will satisfy my need. Can I say this? Can I say that a shirt and a pant will have a need satisfying potential? Give me a yes or a no. Yes. This need satisfying potential is what is called utility. Utility is the need and the want satisfying potential of a commodity. So what is the task of producers? I can say that producers transform natural resources into items which hold some utility for who? For the consumers. What is the task of consumption? Task of consumption is the actual realization of the utility of a commodity. That means I as a consumer will buy a shirt and a pant from the producer, right? I am going to give him money. The person is going to give me a shirt and a pant. With me wearing the shirt and a pant, I am realizing the utility of that shirt or the pant. That task is called the task of consumption. So what do consumers do? Consumers are allocated a very important function, which is one that of consumption. Consumption is the realization of utility of items. Now, most consumers, they will be engaged in the task of consumption, right? But they will be facing a certain constraint. Most of us consumers are facing a constraint, which is what we call budget. We do not have all the money in the world to buy everything that we need or what we want. We don't have all of it. We are limited by the amount of money that we have. So what is going to be our objective? Our objective is going to be optimally utilizing our budgets or our incomes to maximize what is called utility. Since we cannot buy everything because we are limited by our means, that means from whatever money that we have, we will have to buy as much number of goods and services, as much quantity of goods and services within my budget that is going to maximize their use potential for me. This is my objective as a consumer or as a rational consumer. Now, how will a rational consumer maximize utility? The task of a consumer is the agent. The task of a consumer is consumption. This is the task or the role. The objective of a consumer is working within his means. He has to maximize utility. This is the end objective. That a consumer is going to be restricted by the amount of money that he has. There may be many things that he needs, there may be many things that he wants, but he cannot buy everything. Therefore, working within his budget, he will have to buy as much quantity of many things which help him maximize the utility for the same things for himself. This is the eventual objective. Now, how does a consumer or a rational consumer maximize utility? This is what we will have to study now. That is what is called the theory of consumer behavior. Once again, because the consumer that we are talking about here is a rational agent, that means this consumer will be making rational consumption choices, which will be driven by the same four principles that we have just studied. He will be comparing the benefits of an action with the costs of an action. He will be considering all types of costs, which means the costs will include explicit costs as well as the implicit costs. He will have to ignore sunk costs, and he will have to compare not the total cost but the marginal cost. I'm going to explain to you what that means. Now, first thing is utility. Let us focus on maximization of utility. Let us focus here. Right? There will be some things that we'll have to understand before we understand how a consumer maximizes utility. Do you know what utility means? Utility is the use value, or utility is the need or want satisfying potential of a certain commodity. This is how you define utility. Now that means that if I am a UPSC aspirant, there will be many times that I would want to write an answer. Now writing an answer is my need. For me to write an answer, I will have to get a notebook and I will have to get a pen. That means a notebook holds utility for me. A pen also holds utility for me. Around utility, there are two schools of thought. One school of thought says that utility can be measured. The other school of thought says utility cannot be measured. One school of thought says utility can be measured. That means there is a number that I can put to how useful a notebook is for me. There is a number that I can put to how useful a pen is for me. The other school of thought says there is no way we can quantify something so subjective as utility. The first school of thought, which says utility can be measured, is called the Cardinal approach to utility. And the second school of thought, which says utility cannot be measured, it's very subjective, is called the Ordinal approach to utility. We will only have to focus on the Cardinal approach to utility. Now, an example of the Cardinal approach to utility would be, for example, an essay, right? Do you think utility can be measured? If you are of the opinion that utility cannot be measured, you should look at this example. There is something that you're going to be writing as a part of this exam, which is called an essay. Now, an essay is very, very subjective, right? There are many people who will write an essay. There are many instances when you get to read all of those essays and you will think one essay is better than the other one. But because it is inherently subjective, do you not measure how good an essay or bad an essay is? We do that, right? For example, if I am the examiner, there will be some parameters that I am going to be looking at to evaluate an essay. For example, I will look at language. I will look at relevance of content. I will look at, for example, I can say structure. Right? I may also look at, you can say creativity. For me to evaluate whether an essay is a good essay or a bad essay, there are 4 factors that I will consider. I will consider the language of the essay. I will consider the relevance of content, like given the topic, is the content relevant or not? I will look at the structure of the essay, which means is the writing coherent or not? And I will also look at the creative aspect of it, whether a person uses anecdotes, uses quotations, uses, you can say, facts, figures, data points, other examples, like how creative is this person? Now, if I have to evaluate an essay, right, from 100 marks, to my mind, language, relevance, structure and creativity, they all hold equal importance. So I am going to be assigning 25 marks to each of these 4 factors. Whenever I get an essay, I will be considering 4 equally important factors: language, content relevance, structure, as well as creativity. Now, the least I can give somebody on language is 0. The max I can give somebody on language is 25. Same is the case with relevance. Same is the case with structure. Same is the case with creativity. You present me with an essay. I think your language is somewhere middle of what I would have wanted. It's not very bad. It's not the best either. I feel that you have done justice, but half justice to language. You don't know how to use your sentences very well. So I may give you, let's say, a 12.5 here. When I look at your content, I feel the content is very, very relevant, that you are writing exactly what the topic demands you to write. So I'm going to give you 20 marks for relevance. I find the structure of your essay to also be very coherent. Right? You started with something. At no point while I was reading that essay did I feel like you have gone outside of the context. Right? You're not writing about absurd things. You're staying well within the demand of the essay, and it's a very coherent essay. So I'm going to give you 20 marks for coherence also, and for creativity, because you did not use any examples, you used a few data points. I did not like you on the creative aspect of it, and I gave you only 5. That means your total score out of 100 is how much? 45 plus 12.5. I gave you 57.5 marks for your essay. Something which was absolutely subjective. I gave you 57.5. How did I come about with this number? I created a function. This function is very simple. Your total marks will be A plus B plus C plus D. That means your total marks is a function of 4 things. It is a function of your language, it's a function of your relevance, it's a function of structure, and it's a function of creativity. And how is this determined? It's a very simple summation of all of these 4 factors. Right? I summed up 12.5 plus 20 plus 20 plus 5, and I got a certain number which is called 57.5. Something which was inherently subjective, but I decided to put a number to it. Now, why is this number important? Because when you get a 57.5 and when you look at somebody else's essay, which was also evaluated by me, and I gave him or her a 75, you automatically know that your essay is not as good compared to the other person's essay. And something that you cannot measure, you cannot improve. That means if you go from 57.5 the next time you present me with an essay and this time I give you a 60, that means you have improved from the last time. But there is a way that I can assign a certain number to things which are also inherently subjective. Same thing in the case of utility. The cardinal school of approach, the cardinal school of thought, the cardinal approach to utility says that yes, utility may be very subjective, but there is a way to put a number to it. And the number, they measure this in terms of units. These units are called utils. What they use is complicated mathematical functions, which they call utility functions, to arrive at numbers for utility of every commodity. Right? Now, these utility functions express a number. Right? This number will have an SI unit. The unit will be utils. Get this? We have to only focus on the cardinal school of thought. Utility, do you understand this part? Not a problem understanding this? Two schools of thought around utility. One is the cardinal school of thought, the other one is the ordinal school of thought. We'll have to go with the cardinal school of thought. The next thing around utility that we'll have to understand is what is called marginal utility. Is utility clear? Any one of you who has a problem? Is utility clear to you? What is utility? It's the use or use value of a commodity or the need satisfying potential of a commodity. There are two schools of thought around utility. One school of thought says we can measure it. The other one says we cannot measure it. Right? Both of these schools of thought can be used to come down to what is called a demand curve. You don't have to worry about that. We'll only use the cardinal school of thought. Is this clear? And if it is clear, let's move to what is called marginal utility. What is marginal utility? Now let us try to imagine with an example. The example, the best way of understanding marginal utility would be to imagine something like a food item. Imagine that you are all hungry. That means you require a food item, and let's make this food item a burger. Right? You are hungry. Your need is that you want to satiate your hunger. There is an item, there is a good called a burger. This burger can satisfy your hunger. It can satisfy your need. Can we say that burger holds some utility for you? Right? Now, let us focus on an example. The assumption in this example is that I am going to give you a burger. I'm not going to be asking money from you. Now, since you are hungry, if I give you one burger, would you take it? If I give you one burger, would you take it? You're hungry, I give you one burger. Would you take it? Give me a yes or a no. Would you take a burger? Give me a yes or a no. You are hungry. I'm not asking money from you. If I give you a burger, would you take this? Yes, yes, yes. Of course you will. Right? How happy does this burger make you? Let's say this burger makes you happy by 10 utils. The SI unit in this case is utils. So this burger makes you happy by 10 utils. Right? Now somebody gives you another burger. Would you take it? Would you take the second burger? Would you take the second burger? Give me a yes or a no. The assumption is that of course you will take it because I'm not asking money for it. You were hungry. I gave you a burger. Of course you're going to take it because it is going to satiate your hunger. Right? The first burger made you happy by 10 utils. I give you another burger. Will you take it? The assumption is of course more is always better. I'm not asking money from you. So you will take the second burger too. Will that make you happy? Obviously, because you have taken the second burger, it should make you happy. Only then will you take this. How happy will you take? How happy will you be? Now your happiness will increase till about 18 utils. The second burger will also make you happy, but will it make you as happy as the previous one? Will it make you as happy as the previous burger? Give me a yes or a no. You were hungry, I gave you one burger, you took it gladly because it of course satiated your hunger. You ate that burger. Now some amount of your hunger is satiated, I gave you another burger. Will that make you happy? It will also make you happy, but the second burger is not going to make you as happy as the first one because that was the first time when you were the most hungry, right? So that means the second burger is also going to add to your happiness, but it will not make you as happy as the first one. Now I give you the second burger, now I give you one more burger. Will you take it? The third burger, if I give you, will you take the third burger? Now, most of you are saying no are wrong, right? Most of you, if I'm not asking you any money for a burger and I give you the third burger, will you not take it? The assumption is that of course you will take it. More is always better. I'm not asking money from you. Will you take the third burger? The idea is yes, you will take the third burger, but will it make you happy? Because it made you happy, that's why you're going to get the third one. The only thing is, in this case, you will be happy, but not as happy as the first one. Now, you consumed many burgers, your happiness or your utility, it kept on increasing as you consumed more and more. If you had consumed 4 burgers, quite obviously the fourth burger will also make you happy, but it will not make you as happy as the third one. This is going to increase your happiness to 28 utils. What is marginal utility? Marginal utility is going to be the change in total utility by you consuming one more item. That means when you had consumed nothing, when it was a 0 burger scenario, you were not happy at all because your utility that you realized was only 0. When you consumed the first unit of burger, how much did your total utility increase by? It increased by 10 minus 0, which is 10. When you consumed the second unit of burger, did it make you happy? Yes, it did. But how happy did the second unit of burger make you? It will have made you happy by 8 utils. What was the change in total utility by you consuming one more item? The change was, it went from 10 to 18. That means the change is 8 utils. This means the marginal utility of the second unit of burger is 8 utils. When you consume 3 burgers, the happiness increased from 18 till 24. But how happy did the third burger make you? It made you happy by 24 minus 18. This means the third burger made you happy by 6 utils. How happy did the fourth burger make you? What was the change in total happiness? From 24, you went up till 28 by you consuming 4 burgers. That means the fourth burger made you happy by only 4 utils. What you're witnessing on the board is that as you consume more and more items of the same kind, your happiness is going to increase or your utility is going to increase, but the consumption of each additional unit of the same thing is going to make you happier by an amount less than the previous one. That means the most happiness you got from the first burger, if you added one more, the second one would also make you happy, but not as happy as the previous one. The third burger will also make you happy, but not as happy as the second one, definitely not as happy as the first burger. You add a fourth one too, the fourth one will also make you happy, but not as happy as the third burger, second or the first burger for that matter. Marginal utility is the change in total utility by you consuming one more item. And what you are witnessing on the board is that marginal utility continues to diminish as you consume more and more of the same items. So what is marginal utility? First thing is, it is the change in total utility with the consumption of one more unit of a commodity. It is the change in total utility by you consuming one more unit of a commodity. Marginal utility of a commodity is the change in total utility by you consuming one more item. And what you are witnessing here is called the law of diminishing marginal utility. The law of diminishing marginal utility says, keeping all other things constant, the consumption of one more unit of a commodity will add to the total utility by an amount less than the previous one. That means as you consume more and more of the same items are going to make you lesser and lesser happy. They will make you happy, but not as happy as the previous ones. This is called law of diminishing marginal utility. This is called marginal utility. A good example of understanding marginal utility could also be if you meet Anand Ambani and you give him 1 crore. Will that make him happy? Will he take it? Most likely will. Will that make him happy? It most likely will. Anybody gets a 1 CR, of course, will be happy. But would it make him as happy as the first crore that he ever earned? If you present 1 crore rupees to Mr. Mukesh Ambani, will that make him happy? Of course, it will make him happy, but it will not make him as happy as the first crore that he had ever made, right? That means he has accumulated so much of these crores that 1 more crore does not make him as happy. It's the same thing. If I consume the same item more and more, of course, it's going to add to my happiness, but each additional unit is going to make me happy by an amount which is less than the previous one. This is what is called the law of diminishing marginal utility. There are some things that you'll have to understand before we move to what is called consumer behavior. First thing is called utility, second is called marginal utility, and the third thing is called diminishing marginal utility. So consumers have to keep this principle in mind that if they consume more and more of the same item is going to make them lesser and lesser happy, or happier by an amount which is less than the previous one, right? Now, keeping these tools in our mind, we will now have to construct what is called a demand curve, or how do consumers behave in a market scenario. For this, the fourth principle is going to come in handy. Many of you were asking me the fourth principle. The fourth principle of rational choice making was that whenever you are comparing benefits of an action with the costs of an action, we will not compare total benefits with the total costs. We will compare incremental benefits with incremental costs. That means we will compare marginal benefits of an action with the marginal costs of an action. This in economics is also called marginal analysis. What is marginal analysis? Let me try and explain to you with a simple example. The example is, there is a cup of tea that your father likes. Your father drinks a certain kind of tea. This tea has a certain sugar content, right? He offers you his cup of tea and he wants you to taste it. The moment you taste it, there is a certain amount of sugar content that you will realize, and he will tell you, you know what, make this tea for me. Make it exactly like the kind of tea that I am drinking right now. If the sugar content is more than what I like it to be or is less than what I like it to be, you will be slapped back to senses. You will be slapped some 20 times, and then you will have to be making the same tea again. So the game is very simple. The game is, your father has told you to make a cup of tea exactly as how he likes it in terms of sugar content. If you do not make the most perfect tea ever, if the sugar content that you put in that tea is not perfect, he will slap you 20 times and you will have to make the same tea again. This is the game. Now tell me, how do you make sure that you make the most perfect cup of tea for your father? What is going to be your approach? When you are adding sugar, will you just put your hand in a container full of sugar and then take out as much amount of sugar as you want and just straight up dissolve it in the tea? Or is there a better way of approaching the same problem? Because if you put too much, then he's going to slap you 20 times and make you make the same tea again. If you put anywhere lesser than the sugar that he likes, he's again going to slap you 20 times and you will have to make the same tea again. That means the cost of your action is going to be you getting slapped some 20 times and then having to make the same tea again. Now tell me, how do you solve this problem? How do you make the most perfect tea for your father? How does that happen? What will you do? You will solve this specific problem by going 1 tablespoon of sugar at a time. I will make tea and give it to my mom. Makes sense. Right? You will increase sugar, but on an incremental basis. You cannot just put your muthi in a jar full of sugar and then pull out as much as you want and dump it in the tea. That's not what you're going to do, because chances are the tea may be, the sugar content may be more, it may be lesser. And in either cases, you're going to get slapped 20 times and you'll have to make the same tea again. So what you do is exactly what Samanpreet is saying. What she is saying is, you will add sugar slowly. You will go one step at a time. Right? You will add 1 tablespoon of sugar and then see if it tastes exactly what your father likes it. If it is lesser, then you add another. If it is still lesser, then you add another. You stop exactly at the sweet spot where your father likes it. This is what is called marginal analysis. That means before making the choice of adding sugar to your tea, you are going to be doing it one step at a time. You're going to consider the cost of adding one tablespoon of sugar to the tea with the benefits of it. The benefit is, as you add more and more, you are getting closer to the kind of tea that your father wants. The cost is that the same tablespoon of sugar can also take you away from the goal. Right? So you do it one step at a time. That's how you basically solve the problem. I can give you the same example like a hill climbing exercise. There is a hill that you will have to climb. You are a person. The game that you have to play is, you will be blindfolded. Right? You are blindfolded. The game is very simple. You have to reach the top of this hill. If you reach the top of this hill and take your blindfold off, the game ends there. But if you reach anywhere else except for the top of the hill and you take your blindfold off, you will be sent back to the starting point, blindfolded again, and then you will have to play the same game again. The game will only and only end if you take your blindfold off here. How do you play the game? One way is, like somebody mentioned, hit and trial method. In computer science, this is what is called the brute method. That you decide to walk up, and wherever you decide to feel like, oh, this looks like the top of the hill, you take your blindfold off. If it's not the top, you are going back to the same starting point again. The game starts once more. This is called the brute method. That means it is entirely dependent on your luck. You may take one attempt to reach the top of the hill. You may take 1,000,000 attempts and yet not reach the top of the hill. Right? It can go either way. According to marginal analysis, what should you be doing? what is the correct approach of solving this problem? The correct approach is that you will take one step at a time. If your step is at a positive gradient, if you feel that there is some slope, right, that means you're not at the top of the hill. That means if you put one step and you found that there is still some slope, you have not reached the top. That means you can take one more step. If you still feel that there is some more steep slope, then you will take one more step. You will continue to take one more step, and you will start to see that the steepness starts to sort of gradually taper off. When you reach the top of the hill, the next step you are going to take, you are going to feel a certain bit of a decline. Once you know that you have reached the top of the hill, the next step is only going to take you downwards, and that is when you take the step back, and this is where you stop. This is the tool of marginal analysis, which means that you will take any action one step at a time. If your step takes you closer to your goal, you will take that step. If your step takes you away from the goal, you will not take that step. In mathematical terms, it's very simple. So long as the marginal benefit of your action, the benefit of taking one more step, so long as the marginal benefit is more than the marginal cost of taking that step, you will take that step. If the marginal benefit of an action is less than the marginal cost of an action, you will not take that step. You will only stop when the marginal benefit of an action is the same as the marginal cost of that action. This is where you are at the top of the hill. This is the point where you have to stop. This is the point where your utility will be maximized. This is the tool of marginal analysis. That means, as a consumer, when I'm going to a store with a budgetary constraint, if I'm a rational consumer, let's say I have to buy cakes and I have to buy pens, right? How much cakes should I buy? I will not just randomly think of a number 6 and then buy it. No. I will take that decision incrementally. I will ask of myself, should I buy the first cake or first unit of cake or not? I will compare the marginal benefit of buying the first cake with the marginal cost, and if the marginal benefit is more than the marginal cost, I will buy it. Then I will ask myself, should I buy the second unit or not? Once again, I will compare the marginal benefit of the second unit with its marginal cost, and if the marginal benefit is more than the marginal cost, I will buy the second one. I will stop exactly where my marginal benefit becomes equal to my marginal cost, because this is where I have reached the top of the hill. This is the point of utility maximization. If my marginal benefit is less than my marginal cost, I will just not take that step. Very simple. Now let us try to construct the demand curve. Is it clear though? Do you understand marginal analysis? So the rules of rational choice making are very, very simple. 4 rules, very simple rules. First rule is that every agent, be it a consumer, be it a producer, be it the government, is going to compare the benefits of their actions with the costs of their actions, which is what we call the cost benefit analysis. If the benefits exceed the costs, that means you are landing yourself in a surplus, and anything that gets you a surplus, you should be doing. If the benefits are less than the costs, that means you're lying in what is called economic deficit, and if an action leads you to a deficit, you don't make that choice. The second principle was that whenever we are comparing the benefits with the costs, we will include all types of costs. The first cost is explicit, also called direct, also called monetary cost. It is a cost which is incurred. ये लागत आपको लगी है, and this is money that you will have to pay, right, to buy something. This is what is called the explicit cost. You will factor in the explicit cost. You will also factor in what is called the implicit cost. Implicit cost is the indirect cost, also called non-monetary cost, also is the opportunity cost of an action. Now, opportunity cost, implicit cost, indirect cost, non-monetary cost, exactly the same thing. It is a cost which is incurred but not paid for. It is the cost not of the action that you chose. It is the cost of the action that you did not choose because you chose something else. So you factor in both the explicit as well as the implicit costs whenever you do your cost benefit analysis. The third is you will always ignore sunk costs. That means costs which were already paid for before a decision was made, you will have to ignore them because there is no direct way of recovering them. And the fourth principle is that whenever you are comparing costs with benefits, you will not compare total cost with total benefits, you will compare marginal costs with marginal benefits. If the marginal benefit exceeds the cost, you take that action. If the marginal benefit is less than the cost, you don't take that action. If the marginal benefit becomes equal to the marginal cost, this is where you take the action, but you stop right there. Get this now? Get it? Do you get this now? Now we are at a stage where we can construct what is called the demand curve. If there is a problem, you can still share with me. If there is a problem, please do. Please share. Do you understand what utility means? Do you understand what marginal utility means? Utility is the use value or the need satisfying potential of an item. Marginal utility is the change in total utility with you consuming one more item. There is something called law of diminishing marginal utility, which basically says that as you consume more of the same item, it makes you happy, but by an amount less than the previous one. Understood all of those things? These are all important tools before we construct what is called the demand curve. Perfect. Now let us consider how does a rational consumer demand some items. Okay, now I'll give you an example. Any consumer like you and me will be facing what is called a budgetary constraint. Let's imagine that we are working with a budget of rupees 10. Right? Budget of rupees 10. And we have to buy a packet of chips. Chips cost me rupees 2 per unit. The cost of chips is 2 rupees per unit. I am working with a budget of 10 rupees. The assumption is no savings. Right? In fact, let's not make this assumption right now. I am working with a budget of 10 rupees. How many packets of chips should I buy? Now the ability is, because a packet of chips is going to cost you 2 rupees and you are working with a budget of rupees 10, that means you are able to buy 5. Should you be buying 5 or not? That's not how things work. I will give you what is called the utility for each of these chips. Let's call, if you buy one chip, total utility and marginal utility. We'll keep this the same. One chip makes you happy, 10 utils. 2 chips make you happy, buy 18 utils. 3 chips make you happy, buy 24 utils. 4 chips make you happy, buy 28 utils. 5 chips make you happy, buy 30 utils. 6 chips make you happy, buy 31 utils. Right? This is the utility function. That means the marginal utility of the first chip is how much? The marginal utility of the first chip is the change in total utility. That means at first chip, if you had not consumed anything, your utility would have been 0. The moment you consume the first chip, your marginal utility increases to 10. Right? That means the marginal utility of the first chip will be 10. What will be that for the second chip? It will be the change in total utility. That means the marginal utility for the second chip would be 18 minus 10, which is 8 utils. For the third chip, the marginal utility would be 6 utils, change in total utility. For the fourth one, it will be 4. For the fifth one, it will be 2. And for the sixth one, it will be 1 util. Tell me how many chips should I buy for me to maximize my utility. The budget you are working with is 10 rupees. This is the utility function. This is the price of chips. How many chips should you buy? Remember the 4 principles though. Remember the four principles, which is cost benefit analysis. All costs will be incurred, right? All costs will be included, right? The fourth one is ignoring sunk costs, and last is how much? Using marginal analysis. These are the four principles that you'll have to follow. You are saying till 3. Okay, you will buy 3. Okay. How will a rational consumer factor this? A rational consumer is going to ask of himself, should I buy the first chip or not? The question he poses to himself is, should I buy the first one? How will he know whether he should buy the first one or not? He will compare the marginal benefit of the first chip with its marginal cost. What is the marginal benefit of the first chip? Marginal benefit will be, why are you buying the chip? Because the chip has some utility for you. It will satiate your hunger. If you were at 0 chips, you had 0 utility. The moment you bought first chip, your utility increased till 10. That means the marginal benefit of you buying the first chip is 10 utils. What is the marginal cost of buying the first chip? The marginal cost will be the change in total cost. If you have not bought any chip, you have not spent any rupee. If you buy the first unit of chip, that means your total cost is now 2. That means change in total cost, 2 rupees minus 0 is the marginal cost. Is 10 greater than 2? Is 10 greater than 2? Since the marginal benefit is more than the marginal cost, should you buy the first unit of chip? Yes. That means first chip this person should buy. Now the person has spent 2 rupees on the first unit of chips. That means he is now left with only rupees 8. Then he is going to consider, should I buy the second one or not? For him to buy the second one, once again he does the same thing. He says, what is the marginal benefit of buying the second unit of chip and what is the marginal cost of buying the second unit of chip? The marginal benefit of second unit of chip would be the change in total benefits. The first chip made you happy by 10 utils. If you consumed 2 chips, your happiness will increase till 18. That means the second chip made you happy by how much? 18 minus 10, it made you happy by 8 utils. So the marginal benefit is 8 utils of the second chip. Is it more than the marginal cost or not? What is the change in total cost? If you had bought 1 chip, your total cost would be 2 rupees. That's what you have spent because that's the price. If you buy 2 chips, your total cost will increase to 4 rupees. That means the marginal cost of buying the second chip would be the change in total cost, which will be 4 minus 2. That will be 2 rupees. Is 8 greater than 2? Yes. That means should you buy the second chip? Yes. What is the marginal benefit of the third chip? The marginal benefit of third chip will be the change in total benefits. The third chip makes you happy by 6 utils. That means the marginal benefit of buying the third chip is 6 utils. What is the marginal cost of buying the third chip? The marginal cost will be the change in total cost for you buying the third unit. If you had bought 2, the total cost would have been 4. If you buy 3, the total cost would be 6. What is the change in total cost? 6 minus 4. 6 minus 4 is 2. Is 6 greater than 2? Yes. That means you should buy the third one. Should you buy the fourth one? Once again, you will compare the same thing. If you buy the fourth chip, the marginal utility of the fourth chip is 4 utils and the marginal cost will be once again the change in total cost. If you buy 3 chips, the total cost will be 6. If you buy 4, the total cost will be 8. The change in total cost is 2 rupees. That means is 4 greater than 2? Yes. Should you buy the fourth chip? Yes. Once again, he is going to ask of himself, should he buy the fifth one or not? He will do the same thing. He will compare the marginal benefit of buying the fifth one with its marginal cost. The marginal benefit of buying the fifth one is change in total benefits, which is 2 utils. Should he buy the fifth one? He will compare it with the marginal cost. The marginal cost will be change in total cost. If he bought 4, the total cost would be 8. If he bought 5, the total cost will be 10. The change in total cost will be 10 minus 8, which is 2. and 2 is equal to 2. That means he will buy the fifth one, but this is exactly where he stops, because the marginal benefits have become equal to the marginal cost. This is where his utility has been maximized. That means with the budgetary constraint of 10 rupees, he has to buy chips and the price of a chip is 2 rupees per unit. He should be buying 5 chips, right? That's what he should be buying. The answer is 5. Now, I will leave you with one question. The question would be, right, this part. This is a question that UPSC asked previously. Can you all read this question? I don't understand how to make notes. Tawfiq, you will be getting notes after the end of the class. If you want to, you can. If you don't want to, you cannot. It's entirely up to you, right? But try to focus on the board here itself. Right? Try to understand notes you will get. You don't have to worry. So if you want to write the same thing, now listen, the same thing is, there are hundreds and thousands of notes available in the market. If you want to write the same thing down over and over again, that's a waste of your time. You don't have to even enroll for the class. You will find 1,000 different notes, right? When you're in the class, focus on the board, focus on understanding. Understand what is happening. Notes you will automatically get. You will have a section in your app itself where it will be attachments or something like that, right? If you look at the attachments, you will get the notes automatically. Or you can go back to the same class and make your own notes. I have many times discussed each of these things, but I think it will be a waste of your time. If you're getting handmade notes already, somebody else is looking at the class and making those notes for you. Why do you have to waste the same time making the same notes again? Now tell me, this is a question which was asked by UPSC, right? Only 2 questions from microeconomics so far. This is one. Answer this question for me, which is, if a commodity is provided for free to the public by the government, then. This is your homework. Tomorrow when we come to the class, we will discuss this question, right? After this discussion, we will continue with building the demand curve. Look at the question. The question is, if a commodity is provided free to the public by the government, then which of these options is correct? Is the opportunity cost 0? Is the opportunity cost ignored? Is the opportunity cost transferred from the consumers of the product to the tax-paying public? Is the opportunity cost transferred from the consumers of the product to the government? Now tell me, what should be the answer to the question? And you will discover something really critical as a skill for you to be better at UPSC questions. Look at this question, read it as much as you want, right? After 2 minutes, I'm going to ask you the answer, and I am also going to ask you the reason behind the same. I see many of you are answering in A. Some of you are answering in C also. D also. C. Firstly, from the topics we'll be discussing in the first 3 classes, this is the topic on microeconomics, and since 2013 till about 2024, only 2 questions have been asked on microeconomics. One of the questions is this: if a commodity is provided free to the public by the government, then which of these options is correct? Now, how do you solve a UPSC based question? All of you all can just stop typing, just stop typing then and there, and focus on the board. How do you solve questions in UPSC? Just stop typing. Right? Look at the question. The question says, if a commodity is provided free to the public by the government, then which of these options is correct? Every time you look at a question from UPSC, right, you always go in thinking what is the reason behind an option being wrong. The approach to solving a UPSC based question is not to see which of these is correct. You have to look at each of these options and think, why is this wrong? Why is this wrong? Why is this wrong? And why is this wrong? The option for which you have the least number of reasons to believe that the option would be wrong is usually the right answer. Question is, if a commodity is provided for free to the public, then by the government, then this question is essentially about opportunity cost. Now, which of these options will just not be the answer? We said that the government, the producers, the consumers, we assume them to be rational agents. And in the rational choice making, there are 4 principles. The first principle is that there would be cost-benefit analysis. Whenever we are comparing costs, we will include both the explicit costs and the implicit costs. And implicit cost essentially is the opportunity cost. This is what the cost is. That means, assuming the government to be rational, whenever they are providing a commodity to be free, will the opportunity cost be ignored? A rational agent is not going to ignore opportunity costs. We just discussed this in the class itself. In the cost-benefit analysis, you include both types of costs, the explicit as well as the implicit one. Implicit cost is the opportunity cost. That means option B just cannot be the right answer. That means the answer lies between A, C and D. One of these 3 is the answer. Now you have a 1/3 chance of getting this question right. Consider the first statement. The first statement says the opportunity cost is 0. Now try to imagine a scenario. Imagine that this question is about an LPG cylinder. The government decides to do what? The government decides to give this commodity for free. That means the LPG cylinder is being offered at 0 rupees to the consumers. Is the opportunity cost 0? How do you define the opportunity cost? Opportunity cost, it is the cost of the next best alternative foregone. Right? Opportunity cost is the cost of the next best alternative foregone because you chose to do something else. The government decides to choose to sell this LPG cylinder for rupees 0. This is the option that the government selected. Let's call it option A. Because the LPG cylinder was provided for free to the public, do you think the LPG cylinder was also made for free? Did the raw material come for free? Did those people who construct or who can say liquefied this petroleum gas and constructed these cylinders, did they charge nothing to the government? Would the cost have been 0? Would the cost have been 0? The fact that a cylinder is provided for free to the people doesn't mean that there is no cost incurred on making a cylinder. There would be some cost made, right? That means the government has to pick from two options. One option is provide the cylinder for free. The other option, option B, is to recover some cost. The LPG cylinder was made for, imagine, let's say it was made for rupees 600. The government decides to sell it for free. That means the government is not choosing the next best alternative, which would have been, chalo, you don't make no profit, but at least recover the cost. The LPG cylinder is not made for free. It did not come to the government for free. It came at a certain cost. The government chose to not sell it for that particular cost, chose to not make any profits on it. That means the government let go of this opportunity where it could have recovered the same cost. That means, is the opportunity cost zero? Did the cylinder come to the government for free? Not at all. Option A goes out of the window. Now you are left with two options. First is the opportunity costs are transferred from the consumers of the product to the tax paying public. The second is transferred from the consumer of the product to the government. First case, is the opportunity cost transferred from the consumers of the product to the tax paying public? Now remember, the government is procuring these cylinders or making these cylinders at 600 rupees per cylinder. The government is selling it for free to some consumers. That's what it is doing. Is it going to ignore this 600 rupees? No. Is there no cost to making the cylinder? There is. That means, is the opportunity cost zero? No. Then what happens to this 600 rupees? This 600 rupees, the government is going to recover from where? The government is going to recover either from its own money or from taxes. Essentially speaking, what is the government going to do? The government bought many cylinders for 600 rupees, sold it off for free. That means, where did the government get this money from? This burden is going to be transferred over to the tax-paying public, because the major source of money for the government is the tax-paying public. Where does government get most of its money from? It gets most of its money from taxation, either of the corporates or of individuals. Taxing the businesses, taxing the individuals. That is where the government gets its most money from. The government also gets its money from selling services to the people. For example, there are public hospitals. Public hospitals may you have to go and get that slip. The slip may cost you 5 rupees, 10 rupees, 20 rupees. There is some user charge that the government may recover. The government may charge you for the water that you use. The government may charge you for, getting your Aadhaar card sent to your home. So there are many services that the government also offers. Selling of those services helps the government recover some user charges. That is also government's money. But a major part of government's money comes from taxation. That means, if the government is foregoing the revenue that it could have gotten from selling these cylinders, this money will not be ignored. The government is only going to get this money to buy these cylinders to sell it off for free, because it is going to tax you more. In the future, you are going to be paying the government the money from which it is going to buy this LPG cylinder and offer to some people for free. Practically speaking, C and D could theoretically be both answers, but the most logical answer is this. The government is not going to give things for free to people unless it has the capacity to bear those things. The government, when it tells you that you can use this road for free or you can use this highway for free, it does not mean that it cost government nothing to construct that highway. Right? It cost government money to construct that highway. That means the opportunity cost is not zero. The opportunity cost is the cost of next best alternative. If I'm choosing to allow you to use that highway for free, that means I'm foregoing the option of charging you. Is this option foregone? No. This option is not foregone. This option is not forgotten. This is not zero. It's not ignored. Eventually, it's the tax-paying people only from whose money the government is going to be procuring commodities and selling it to other people for free. The answer to this question is option C, because the most likely case will be that the government is going to charge taxes from you, and from your money it is going to buy those commodities and offer it for free to most people. Do you get this? Do you get this now? You have to be very, very logical whenever you are solving questions for UPSC. Always take what is called the negative approach. You look at each of these options and ask of yourself, would D be correct too? Technically, yes. But between C and D, the most normal route would be option C. D would be correct. In fact, the reason why D should be wrong is when you say that the opportunity cost is transferred to the government. What does it mean? Government has which money? The government has major source of money as taxation. The government can also sell its services, but how is it making those services? It is taxing us, and that is how it is making those services. So technically between C and D, if you are presented with a choice, theoretically both of these can be the option, but the most likely option is option C. This is your approach towards solving a UPSC question paper. You will be given options wherein you will have to use a sense of logic. You will have to apply yourself, and that's how you solve these questions. It's not going to be, sir, mere notes kahan hai? Sir, meri book kaun si padh lu? Nothing is going to solve it for you, only and only your brain. So when we are looking at lectures, please let us try to focus on what is being taught on the board and make sure that we understand it correctly. If you spend all of your time typing some comments to me which I'm not going to read unless I give you the time to, then you are doing yourself a disservice. Focus on the board. If you have a doubt, ask me when I give you the opportunity to. We have to continue with the demand curve. We have only understood the tools which are necessary. Tomorrow we will construct the demand curve. We will understand the law of demand. We will also understand a very important concept which is called elasticity. All right. Alright, so we are wrapping up for today's class here, but wouldn't consumers mentioned in the options would be taxpayers themselves? Not necessarily. I mean, depends upon technically speaking, all those people who buy things are taxpayers, but many consumers don't make any income, so they are technically not making taxpayers. They are not making money. Get this? These are the kind of questions you will be getting in UPSC. Slightly on the gray aspect where you will have to apply yourself. Right? These are not to be found in any book in the market that you can pick a book, oh, I will read this book and that book, I will become better. No, that's not how things work. You'll have to understand things. Once you understand those things, you can apply your learning, your understanding, you'll get those questions right. Focus on the board. That is your learning from today's session. All right. So see you guys. We are done with today's class. Unfortunately, we could not complete the law of demand and supply, but tomorrow onwards I am going to not focus on your comments. A lot of time was lost here. Tomorrow onwards what I am going to do is the same rules of the class. We'll pick a topic, we'll pick a subtopic, we'll complete the subtopic, I will give you some time to ask me questions, and then we will continue. All right, see you guys. Next time use poll. I don't know how to use poll on this, but I'll learn and then I'll understand. This is my first time doing this. Alrighty, see you. I'll meet you tomorrow.